Welcome to the AngelsWin Podcast with former Angels broadcaster Victor Rojas, featuring Geoff Stoddart and Chuck Richter. And now it's time to talk about some baseball. Victor, take it away.
You guys haven't changed this yet? What are you doing?
Take it away.
Take it away. Where am I going? Which way do I go? Which way do I
went
look?
old school. I had to go with Maddie's intro when you're back.
That's like a couple years old now, isn't it?
Yeah, more than that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, might have to have her re-record it for you guys. Her voice has changed a little bit.
She's doing good, right? She's working for the Diamondbacks now.
Yeah. Second year interning for the Diamondbacks. Last year she was in game presentation. This year in business communications, and she's loving every minute of it. So
that's fantastic.
She was born out here, so she was born in Scottsdale, and went to Grand Canyon, obviously. So she loves the desert and loves the Diamondbacks.
Nice.
It's working out well. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Cheers.
good, man.
Salud.
Cheers.
Salud.
Cheers.
Salud.
What's everybody drinking? Obviously, I got red wine.
Obviously, there's Powerade
Walker.
Zero in here to get my electrolytes, along with some vodka.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Things have been, for those that follow Victor on the social media platforms on X and LinkedIn, if you follow him there, you've got some changes going on in your professional career that we'd love to hear about and kind of catch everybody up.
Yeah, it's been hectic. I mean, you guys knew I took the job in Arizona at Ottawa University and was assistant head coach and recruiting coordinator there, and had fun. We had a great year. It would have been better. We struggled. We got off to a 15-1 start. And that included beating the number 2 team in the country in Georgia. And then it just we just went through this period of, I think it was 4-16, 4-13, where it's just Yeah. And we never really got out of the funk. We had a winning record. I think we were 10 games over 500, did a lot of great stuff, great kids, but what could have been? And then this opportunity in Hastings came about to become the head coach at Hastings College. And I had interviewed for the job last year. Circumstances had me pull out of that gig. That's how I ended up in Arizona. And then, they called me right away and said, "Hey, we'd like for you to be the guy and change this program around and, get it back to where it needs to be." And it's a really good community. It's a small town. It's baseball starved. They love the game of baseball. Huge. If you're a Midwest guy, American Legion is like the thing in the summer. I grew up in Legion ball myself. And so it's big Legion country. And so they love the game of baseball. There's fields. It's 25,000 people in that town. There's baseball fields everywhere, which is awesome. So they're starved for it. They're excited. The last week has been awesome, getting messages about how people are just jacked up about turning things around, and just been drinking out of a fire hose, man. It's been... 10 days since I got named, and I was in Nebraska, and I've just been on recruiting calls and signed 6 guys in the last 3 days, and it's just been it's been fun. I like being busy. I've been enjoying it. So that's what I've been doing.
That's great. What does recruiting look like in college baseball, but really college athletics now with I mean, is NIL a big thing for schools of your size there? Okay.
No, I mean, I'm sure there is. You can partake in it and you can do all that kind of stuff. It's just not at the level, because most of the institutions at our level are private and they're small, revenue generating. It comes through enrollment, obviously. And so it's difficult. I mean, you might have some powerhouses like the Georgia Gwinnett's, LSU Shreveport and the like that maybe have the ability to do that. But we don't. But the recruiting in general, the landscape it's just insane. It really is. It's going to get worse before it gets better. That's looking at it glass half full. So this NCAA settlement thing is supposed to be coming down the pike in, I don't know, next couple of weeks or thereabouts. That's where roster limitations are coming in, or so it appears. It all depends on how the settlement and the judge decides what she wants to rule. But that being said, as of right now, the plan is it's a 34-man hard roster number at the Division I level.
Okay.
And so because of that, you've got schools that have had 40 to 45 guys to roster 35, 36. And so there's going to be a fall off. It kills the high school recruiting at the Division I level unless you're a top 1%er, because it's virtually impossible for a school that's limited to a certain number of spots to guarantee a kid is going to get an opportunity to play, because they're in all in win mode now. And now I'm talking about the Power 4, Power 5 conferences, the big boys. Mid majors, depends if they opt into the settlement or opt out. If they opt in, then they're under the same rules. They could offer 35 scholarships if they wanted to. If whatever the roster number is, they could 35 full. If the school can fund it, they can offer 35 full. Not going to happen at the mid-major level. You're probably going to get schools like UCI that maybe go up to, they'll probably opt in, but they'll probably go up to 13, 14, maybe 15 full scholarships. And then you can divvy that up however you want, right? So you take that number, if you take, and I'm just throwing out round numbers now, but if you take 35 roster spots and it's $10,000 for tuition, you can do the math. Now you divvy up that money however you want. You can give one full scholarship away to a kid, but now you've got 14 full scholarships to divide over 34 guys. And so it just becomes a mathematical problem. The P4s are going to have, if they want to, the ability to fund all of those scholarships, but it's going to be hard because where they fall in the pecking order, it's football, right? Then you've got basketball, women's basketball, then baseball. So you might struggle on how that pie gets divvied up. But that's the crazy thing. You got dudes everywhere into the portal or coaching change. I'm leaving. I didn't get the opportunity. I'm leaving. And then on top of that, in the portal is going to open up here in 2 weeks on June 1st. It's going to just be the wild, wild west. I mean, there's going to be dudes. That's why I'm trying to get as many guys done that I want now. Because then all of a sudden you're just like, you're in the weeds kind of, hey, look at us. But there's going to be a lot of kids that are just, might get a lot of kids hang them up because they just get tired of the BS and the game and stuff like that. It's not easy. It really isn't for these kids. But hey, look, I'm trying to turn things around, and we're in win mode now. We're not rebuilding. We're going after guys that can make an impact immediately. And like I've told our team last Monday when I was in Nebraska talking to them and every recruit, we want to shock the world. We want to go from a 7-win team to contending in the conference, and I think we can do that with the right mix of guys coming in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where do you look to recruit from then mostly? Are you looking to JUCOs versus high schools, or what is your big targets that you kind of look toward?
I scatter shoot. And even when I was in Arizona, I didn't care if you were in New York or Illinois, Florida, it didn't matter. I was taking my shot at getting kids to come to Arizona, and I'm doing the exact same thing. It's a fine balance of you want to keep the kids in your backyard at home. And so, for us, that means we got to deal with Creighton, Omaha, University of Nebraska, as far as, big time Division I schools. And then you get into, the Concordias, Dorts, Doanes that are powerhouse NAIA schools. And so that's the challenge, right? It's just finding the right fit. And for me, it's about selling the opportunity. I've got opportunity to give. Yeah, I'm inheriting X amount of guys, but the depth chart is really right now is maybe a blank piece of paper because I haven't seen those guys play. And so I got to go get guys that I feel are in line with my vision, my philosophy, and that are good in the classroom, and that are dogs on the field, and kind of blend them all together and make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction. So whether it's a high school kid or a JUCO, obviously I'm looking for a combination of both because you need to build a program with young guys that are if they're not ready to go right now when August rolls around, they're ready to go to come their sophomore year and ready to step in and have been in the system, understand the philosophy, and are all in. so that we can continuously churn. So it's kind of finding a balance, but I have been, geeked toward the JUCO guy or a guy that's leaving a 4-year school, because experience matters.
Sure.
And, especially from a pitching perspective, looking for guys that can throw strikes. Velocity is great and stuff, but if you are spraying it, it doesn't do me any good. In this level, at the NAIA level, as good as some of these teams are, it's like anywhere else. You throw strikes, you got a chance. If you throw strikes and you catch the ball defensively, you've got a really good chance. And so that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And then, winning begets, confidence and begets notoriety. And then hopefully you win a little bit and people start to look at you in a different light. So that's kind of the hope. That's big picture.
Yeah. Have you bumped into Darren Erstad?
Not yet. Well, I was only in Nebraska for like 2 days. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
How connected are you? I mean, would you, just to kind of pick his brain? I know he's a former head coach of Nebraska. But
I've talked to him briefly, but it wasn't, I talked to Reggie Willits more because he was still playing when I was there. Reggie's at Oklahoma. His son, well, the one son's at Oklahoma is good. His high school son probably going to it might be a first rounder, second rounder. So I don't know if he gets to OU, but yeah, I haven't had a chance to talk with Darren or, Alex Gordon's from Nebraska too, former Royals outfielder. And so those guys, you pick their brains a little bit, but it's really more guys that are involved in the amateur space. If those guys were, doing the travel ball thing and or had academies, then it's just kind of getting in there and finding a niche with them. But, just kind of, X is great. Instagram's good. I just sit there and just watch video and see what, I'm looking for a certain type of guy. And then you just reach out, make contact.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a sales job, right? Selling your vision, selling you, selling your passion. And our facilities sell themselves. I think we got great facilities for an NAIA school. The school basically said, we want to win. So whatever you need, we're going to try to support you as much as we can. And then, so that's great. So it really becomes a sales job after that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Nebraska is so in love with baseball.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids were doing travel ball, a good chunk of our out-of-state tournaments were in Nebraska.
Yeah.
And we were going to cities and little towns I had never heard of. And, we're rolling in there and I'm looking at these facilities, and fields that these kids are playing on. I'm like, this is impressive for being surrounded by miles of nothing.
Yeah, of cornfields. Yeah.
Right.
But the facilities across the country have gotten really good. I mean, when you look at high school fields nowadays, they're ridiculous.
They're like little stadiums.
They're putting money into it. And, you get some of the private schools to get better, better facilities because obviously you get parents that, chip in for a hitting area or whatever, the dugouts and the like. And so it's pretty nice. Ours is a city-owned facility. It's got a nice little stadium to it, grandstands, the folding seats. It's turf infield, grass outfield. The stadium itself was built in 1940, so it still has the original old brick outfield wall.
Nice.
And it's one of those big yards. Like I had a kid goes, he sent me a text back and he goes, "Does that read 350 down the left field line?" I said, "Yes, it does." I said, "Yes, it does." Yes, it does. It's a great pitcher's ballpark.
Right. Hit the weight room. Don't skip leg day.
Yeah. So, but it's cool. It's cool.
That's awesome. Well, it's great catching up and hearing how things are going.
Thanks, man.
I know a lot of people, though, are tuning in. They want to hear us talk about our favorite sport. And obviously, there's big news there. So the NFL released the schedule yesterday.
Go Chiefs.
I'm just kidding. Hey,
Broncos,
Chiefs, Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, we are the Broncos, Hastings College Broncos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Thankfully, we're not navy and orange. Yeah.
Love it.
Crimson and black, baby.
Yep. Well, we're here to talk some Angels baseball. So, Chuck, you want to dip your toe in the water on this one?
Oh, gosh. Did you throw an iron in there, too?
Exactly.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, where do you start? I mean, the last podcast that you and I, Geoff, did
Was right before the season started.
There's positive vibes, and then
Ugh.
and then it was with Trent Rush, right?
Mhm.
And then of course I did one, with LA Angels from the UK, and
Mhm.
that's when the Angels were at their peak, man. They were
Yeah.
9-4 or 5, I don't know what it was. They were looking good.
12 days into the season.
Yeah, but hey, we were loving it.
And then you got
And
Buttercup.
then, just the wheels fell apart. And, I was just looking at the stats today, and obviously the Angels are in last place. And, they're tied with the Chicago White Sox in the worst batting average in baseball at 214. They have the worst on base percentage at 274. And it's pathetic, really. I mean, it's, their bullpen is the worst in all of baseball. Remember, Geoff, we were talking going into the season where I personally thought that was one of their strengths.
Yeah.
Going in,
Yeah.
and maybe the starting pitching was a little questionable.
Mhm.
And actually, the starting pitching's been okay, but the offense, which was great the first couple weeks of the season, has just fell on their faces, man. And and then of course Mike Trout, gets hurt again, and Rengifo hasn't looked anything like he did last year. Same with Taylor Ward, other than his home runs. And it's just, it's, yeah.
Joyce is gone for the year.
Joyce is gone for the year. Gosh.
Have you guys gone back and looked at our group text and see if anything that I said in the off season has held true?
It is. I knew you were going to bring that up.
I'm just curious.
By the way,
yeah.
In that group text, were you getting pushback from any of us on that? No.
I got double exclamation points.
Yes, it's
hearts.
Yep, that's what's happening.
Yeah. It's hard, right? Because, every year you got a chance in Major League Baseball in theory. And look, they came out of the gate early on and spent a lot of money, making a big splash. If relatively speaking, that gave everybody the false hope that they were going to spend money this offseason and kind of, and they did. They spent some money, but did they spend it wisely? And like I told you guys, I said, temper that, because this is just, it seems like, hey, we're doing something to build momentum for the fan base, sell tickets and the like. And, they weren't impact guys. They're not impact guys. They're not. They're just not. Yeah. And so I think, unfortunately, we're in this vicious cycle where unless the minor league system just becomes unbelievably great, like, where's the light at the end of that tunnel? Because when you look at the current roster and you look at the minor league system, I don't know, man. That's a little scary.
It is. Yeah.
And, we're not going to go back and talk about revisionist history and should have traded Shohei and stocked up, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But like, where do you go? And you gotta hit on.
You got to hit on those, like Kyron Paris's that, who started off good and okay. And I was okay, that's one. Yeah. And then you got another guy, you got, Zephyr John, who's looking like could be like a lockdown, closer after, Kenley Jansen moves on and stuff. And, but these are guys that they needed Adele to do something and to, and he hasn't, he's still hitting under 200 and, making mental mistakes.
What have we said when you talk about the young guys? Sorry to cut you off there, Chuck. We've said about the young guys, it's like at some point you gotta see some sort of progress, especially for young players, right? You can see the flashes of glimpses of greatness, and it's like, all right, that's good. But then you see the boneheaded plays. That's fine when you're young. But you got to learn, right? Are they making the adjustments necessary, whether it's defensively or offensively at the plate? And look, it's easy to get geeked up about Joe Adele's Gold Glove, blah 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 stuff. But who is he really from an evaluation standpoint? Is that was it just an outlier season? It was, his approach to play is an outlier. Kyron Paris, 2 weeks of the season is that an outlier? Is this really who he is? Is there an in between? But you're in that position as a team where you've got to find out if they're any good. Is Kyron served by going back down to the minor leagues? Maybe just to kind of take the pressure off spotlight and just, even though you're not really right now playing for much and there's zero stress
and zero pressure.
Yeah,
no
but
one's watching this team.
No, yeah, but sometimes you got to reset it and get them out of the environment and take them down to AAA or even AA, whatever. And hey, just go hang with Christian Moore.
Sure.
Just to kind of just change the mindset mojo.
Yeah.
And so there's two schools of thought in that regard. I think you can get away with it more so with pitchers that you're trying to figure out who they are, if they're a viable bullpen piece down the road, or are they long-term bullpen or a rotation guy versus a bullpen piece. Those guys, I think you could ride that out in season because pitchers are temperamental and it just goes up and down. Hitting, especially where KP's at right now, that's one of those that could snowball, and it's a funk that you can, maybe you snap out of it, but then there's that, it's a season long thing. You know what I mean? And then what are you doing psychologically to him going forward? And so that's where that balance is. And I'm sure those guys are talking about it, but it's like, everyone else, Rengifo is who he is. Taylor Ward is who he is. You know what you got. You know what you got in Zach Neto, right? Ohapi, where is he? Who is he? Where's the real Logue? And that's fine. It's still early, right? Is he a catcher? Is he a first baseman? Is he a DA? But that's fine. You could figure that out in the big leagues.
Right.
But then, Nolan Shanuel, you know what you got in Nolan. He is who he is. That's not going to evolve. I mean, unless he puts on 15 pounds of mass and then all of a sudden, this lift and separate. I just don't see that happening because he's such a good, in theory, a bat to ball guy is what he is, a contact guy, gap to gap. But then where do you go? That's where, like, you know what I mean? Then you got all these filler guys and it's like, oh, it's scary. It really is
a scary situation. Yeah. I mean, you're right about Ohapi. His defense this year has been a real atrocious behind the plate, which is weird because he actually was one of the highly regarded defensive catchers in the minors. So I don't know what happened between a couple years ago, last year, and then this season.
It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, there's plenty to be excited about with him and his bat, right? And Zach Neto, obviously, to me, is the team leader, unquestioned. I mean, he's fun to watch. He can do things with the bat, with his glove, on the base paths. I mean, so maybe Matthew Lugo is somebody to, that can be that guy. Otherwise, you're looking at some guys that you hope for in the minors, George Klassen and Aldegari and Caden Dana. You hope that they evolve, like to your point, Victor, and then they're able to become major league contributors. And
the scouting side has got to really start hitting.
Right.
You got to start hitting in 20 rounds of draft. If you're not hitting out of the ballpark on the, on the international level, the Dominicans or whatever the case may be, you've really got to hit on 2 to 3 guys in the draft. Because especially when you've got the selections that you've had, those guys have got to be dudes.
Right.
And, Christian Moore's, the jury's still out. You guys asked me about him when he got drafted last year.
Yeah.
Like him, like the player, like the mentality. Will it translate at the major league level? And will the strikeouts kind of temper themselves? That's what we're trying to figure out right now, right? But if he does figure it out, all right, now you got a pretty decent combination up the middle with Christian and Zach. And to me, that's how you build, right? You go catcher, middle infield, center field. And then you fill in the corners. And so if you can get those guys, those skill position guys, and you've got a foundation, but then filling in, whether it's through free agency or the international route, that's usually the best go route. So we shall see. And the scary thing is had they not pulled out a couple of these eighth, ninth inning wins, how much worse it would be.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because you could say 3 games, right? It's 3
Mhm.
games. Now you're talking 14 and 28.
Yeah, that's
So, and that's just based in the last week, 10 days, those couple of games late in the that they pulled them out. So,
yeah.
So-
But then you look at this real quick, Geoff, and then
Yeah,
you look at the standings though, and they're only 6. As bad as they've played, they're only 6 games out.
yeah.
Which the Mariners, they've been hitting a ton, and they're not really a good hitting team. That they're gonna come back to earth a little bit, right? The Astros really didn't do much. They lost a couple damn good players in Bregman and Tucker. They didn't really add anything to their starting pitching, really. The Rangers has just been kind of,
That's an older team too. That team's they're kind of in that.
Both the Texas teams are another year older and not
Yeah.
another year better.
I think the Rangers are in that kind of purgatory state where they caught lightning in a bottle with a couple of guys, and now, you got good arms and and Leiter and Kumar, but the other guys are just kind of just waiting to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, the division is it's there to be had. It's just dare I say, is this a division that the winner's going to be a 500 team? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Central every year. You got a chance to win. The West has gotten to that point where, because the Astros have come back down to everybody, it's, nobody's really running away. I know there's some people that talk about the A's a little bit because there's some nice little young players in there.
They're fun to watch, actually.
They're on the
fun to
up.
watch.
They're not there, but they're on the up.
They're on the up. So
yeah.
Who knows how things play out when they move to Vegas or whatever. But the Mare Hares are one of those teams that you can only keep that pitching together for so long, right? The Astros are there. So it's a division that, if you had spent the money, right, you could properly, and if you got the guys in, that it was there for the taking, which I think was one of the things I alluded to you guys. It's like,
you did. Yeah.
Like when Tucker left, like, hello, that's like the signal to the rest of the division. It's like, all right, let's go.
It's open.
Yeah.
Yeah. And go ahead, Geoff.
We're also in year 2 of Ron Washington managing the team. What are your thoughts on how he's doing? I watch him in the dugout, and just his, and this is me reading, a guy that I've never met personally, so I don't know. So I'm probably projecting a lot onto him, but he seems to just have this aura of this bullshit is not what I signed up for.
Right.
And I don't know if it's the players. I don't know if it's the organization front office. I don't know. Again, am I projecting things onto him? But he doesn't seem happy to me.
But would you be? I mean, considering how the team played last year now.
But I also wouldn't be surprised. I feel like it was all out there what he was signing up for.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, who knows, right? Like what we were told.
Unless he was fed a line of BS that they were actually going to re-sign Ohtani.
Sure.
Who knows how that, that whole thing played out. I think I think not having Clint Hurdle as his bench coach, and that was one of the initial things that probably pissed him off a little bit about. I haven't talked to him. But that kind of sets the tone, right? So it's like, if I can't hire my own guys, or you're going to disrespect my guy, like, okay, like, it's kind of a red flag,
Sure.
Right.
And Clint's back in the dugout now with the Rockies.
As
the hitting guy. Now he's the bench guy with Bud getting let go.
Right.
But, it's I couldn't tell you. Does it matter who the manager is right now, to be perfectly honest with you? I mean, would it change? Would you be able to get the team to play up to or above what they're capable of doing? I don't know. Maybe, sometimes managerial change, it's good just to clear the air.
Right.
I am a little disappointed, to say the least, on the defensive side, which is something that Wash is,
Yeah.
keen on. But then again, he's not the guy fielding it, right? So it's like it's the personnel that you have, and sometimes, and I've seen it at the college level. Doesn't matter how much you drill somebody and they get it. Yep, I got it, and it looks good here. But all of a sudden in the game, it's a completely different animal.
Sure.
There's only so much I can do to change who that person is. They are who they are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fine line. Now, if guys are tuning out, which I don't know that to be the case, but if guys are tuning out, then you got to make a change. But we'll see how it all plays out.
I think it's interesting that they brought in Travis d'Arnaud to help Ohapi with defense and mentor him, and Ohapi's defense has gone south, and they brought in Kyle Hendricks to help out with Reed Detmers. They even put their lockers right next to each other. And let's don't even get into Reed Detmers, right, Geoff? You're pretty.
Yeah, my postseason bold prediction. This is going to be a bad year for him.
Yeah,
but again, it goes back to the individual.
Sure.
Right. So, Travis d'Arnaud, I would have liked him about 4 years ago. Would have been awesome.
Oh, sure.
I guess they felt that he could add something from a clubhouse perspective. I'm sure he's a great dude. But and even on the pitching side, guys are who they are. And, you can bring all the mentors in that you want, all the coaches you want. And it's like trying to get, a mere mortal to pitch like Randy Johnson. Well, just because you sit Randy Johnson next to him doesn't mean that guy's going to become Randy Johnson.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just
pitching doesn't happen by osmosis.
And again, it's like when you sign a guy and you said, "Oh, it's the perfect veteran presence to help the young players." If that's part of the press release and or that's what you're selling.
You're not saying a lot for your coaching staff, right?
Don't look at what's over here, guys, but look what he's going to be able to do over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of my sense, my take on it.
Yeah. Well, I know we were going to keep this one short. From a baseball standpoint, though, I'd love to get you guys your thoughts on a big announcement that was made yesterday as it relates to Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and basically the stance that lifetime bans now end at the death of the person that was banned. And I find it so interesting watching Angels games every night on the FanDuel network that we had guys, still being held out for gambling. Now, I understand the conflict. It just seems, boy, that butts right up to hypocritical for me. And I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
It's a shame. I'll go first real quick. I just think it's a shame that, they waited until he passed away, that he couldn't have at least had that moment of, joy and satisfaction before he passed on. And that's kind of where I have heartburn. You could argue, should it have been allowed, to have him had the lift on the ban and all that stuff. And you can go back and forth on that, right? But it's just, I don't know. It just kind of sucks that he wouldn't. He loved the game of baseball. And let's face it, he's was an amazing baseball player. And just like I think, Barry Bonds, everyone's made mistakes. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. His freaking steroids didn't give him a near 500 on base percentage year in and year and out, and 600, 700 slugging percentage. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Victor?
It sucks because, there's been a number of guys that deserved to be alive and receive the call that they're getting into the Hall of Fame. And, posthumously and, after they pass away, it's like, to me, it's like, that just blows. I just don't think it's fair.
No.
Ron Santo is the guy that comes to mind, a guy who, he lived every day, not only for Cubs baseball, but to receive the call that he was going to go to Cooperstown. Like, that's what he yearned for. Yeah. And then he passes away and then he gets in after the fact. It's like, really? I've always looked at it from the standpoint of, I never understood how guys, like the voting goes upward. Like all of a sudden they become more Hall of Fame worthy with each passing year. No, like, what are you talking about? They're either a Hall of Famer or they're not.
Yep.
You know, what is this, building momentum, or, you know, we've got a website to build some support for. So like, dude, if they're a Hall of Famer, they're a Hall of Famer. It's like, we're in this society of like trying to, everybody gets a participation medal, for Pete's sake. But on the Rose situation, look, I get it. The rule is there. It's in every clubhouse, has been forever. And that's fine. But I absolutely believe he should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago for what he did on the field. Yeah. And if you wanted to put anything and everything on his Cooperstown plaque, by all means, go right ahead. I think I posted the other day, is like, trust me, they're not all saints, the dudes that are in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Yep. Trust me. They're, you know, there's plenty of stories. Okay. So I don't see what the problem would have been for what he accomplished on the field as a player, both as a Cincinnati Red and as a Philadelphia Philly. I know he spent some time with the Expos, but that doesn't really count. But for what he did for those two cities, it's like, and baseball and the way he played the game and the like, I absolutely should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. So I think it sucks that he passed away, and now it's happening for him. Same goes for Shoeless Joe, or Seacott, and, you know, those guys on the Black Sox that posted numbers, and, you know, you can argue Shoeless Joe had no idea what he was signing. And still had, you know, an unbelievable World Series while the rest of the guys were throwing it. So, you know, it stinks. I'm glad he's finally getting in. You know, we'll see how the other guys go. The problem is that you get these gatekeepers in the Baseball Writers Association that, you know, they're never going to let A-Rod or Roger or Barry in. And that's why I think the voting should change. Like, how in God's name you don't have a commission that are part Hall of Fame voters, part players, executives, and current executives, people that are actually in tune with the evaluation of players on a daily basis, and or have been for 50 years. Right. How they are not part of the process of electing the elite of the elite is beyond me. And instead, you know, you're granted this, you know, tenure, if you will, as a voter, when you're not even, the number of people that don't even watch the game, don't even write anymore about the game, that just have the vote and they get the vote. And that's why you get all these blank votes or these random votes for guys getting in. I just think it's stupid. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Can we
go ahead? Last one.
Real quick, because we haven't got Victor in a while, so I got to ask you, Victor. Have you watched the atrocious home plate umpiring this season? And I don't know if did you see it?
I have not.
It is terrible.
I have not watched enough of a major league game to make a judgment. I see the clips, you know, on people, John Boy and all that, the people that tweeted stuff out. No, I have not seen it. Maybe it's their play to get the robo.
It's almost like they're trying to hasten the process, to get it in.
It was
why would the umpires themselves do that? Though? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm thinking, unless they're incentivized, who knows, right? But yeah, it's, you know, I tell you what, I watch a lot of college baseball, and I'm still calling games. And I get a lot of SEC games. Home plate umpires freaking really good. Like, they're, you know, because they're being judged on TrackMan and stuff like. For the most part, they're pretty good. I mean, you're going to get the one-offs here and there, but I've been fortunate enough. Some of the games I've had were like, all right, that's the strike zone, and it's on both sides, and you know, guys can argue and complain all they want, but it's pretty good. It's pretty true, and they don't budge either. Yeah. Now maybe I've got lucky with some of the guys that have been behind the plate, the games that I've had. But yeah, it's been interesting. Now at the other levels, a little different.
As long as a strike in the second inning is the same as a strike in the seventh, Okay.
Not in our level.
You're calling that tonight? Great.
You're hoping. There's some good guys, but it can be a struggle sometimes. But that's a tough job, man. I did it a couple summers ago. I told you guys I was working some summer 16U, 17U games.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig. I mean, I had a blast doing it because I just love watching these young, like, you're behind the plate and you're like, man, that's a 16-year-old slider.
Right.
Like, that's not what I saw in high school, So it's like, it's legit. So it's fun but it's hard. These parents sometimes,
Oh yeah.
It's hard. Really hard.
Worst.
I had to ask you just in case you've been watching it, because it's been just atrocious. I haven't seen anything this bad in my lifetime.
I'm sorry.
We're talking like a foot out of the zone, and
Yeah.
it's
And it gets magnified too when the Angels struggles. Like, if we'd had that one call, if we didn't get no, it's
right.
not. It's not the one call. It just that's what you're focusing in on. But that wasn't the reason why you didn't win or didn't get the hit. But
yeah.
Well, Victor, it was great having you back and catching up. Glad you're doing well.
Thank you. It's great to see you guys.
Yeah. Likewise. And Chuck, it's good to see you. You've been
it's been a while.
Like we had the podcast right before the season started, then you took off for Asia and I've been underwater with this new job and
it's been busy.
Yeah.
And then when we're available, we're like, God, do we even want to talk?
I don't want to talk about this team.
It happens.
Does anybody want to hear us complain for 45 minutes?
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
I don't want to hear myself complain.
Right.
I have a website where I complain on it.
That's it. You can type your complaints there.
Exactly.
No, it was a pleasure being with you guys. Always fun. You guys are great dudes. Love hanging with you.
Likewise.
And I hope I enlighten somebody.
Always.
Yeah.
We'll have you back again, Victor. I know you're going to be busy and stuff, but we'll keep in touch with you as we always do. And
yeah, please do.
And get you back on and stuff and see how your season's going. And hopefully we have better things to talk about in terms of the Angels.
Yeah. I did wear my Angel shirt today. California.
I like
you did.
it.
I love that. That's great.
It's a retro.
Yeah.
I think a 47 brand, I think is what it is.
All right, fans.
It was about 12 years old though, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's episode 51 of the AngelsWin Podcast for Victor Rojas and Chuck Richter. I'm Geoff Stoddart. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the AngelsWin Podcast with Victor Rojas, Chuck Richter, and Geoff Stoddart. Go Halos and drive home safely.
Say goodbye.